For a brachycephalic dog with tracheal hypoplasia, it would be like trying to breathe through a wet cloth with a flimsy tiny straw. Not much fun. G'day, I'm Dr. Karen. Look, I think we all know there is something undeniable about the cute features and the quirky personalities of the French Bulldog, but it's really sensible that you've raised some concerns about their health, because unfortunately, this is one breed that does come with some special considerations. Now, every breed out there has their own little genetic quirks and problems, but some have more serious implications than others. And unfortunately, the French Bulldog issues can have some really significant and severe impacts on their overall health and quality of life. But just as with any other breed, it can all come down to the individual's genetics, parentage, and the way in which they have been bred. The number one health concern with the French Bulldog is brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, or BOAS for short. It's something that we see in the French Bulldog, the Bulldog, Pugs, Shih Tzus, myriad other breeds with the shortened muzzle, the squashed face, also known as the brachycephalic skull. And what people don't often realize is that even though the muzzle is shortened, everything that goes on inside that muzzle hasn't been shortened. So you haven't got a shorter soft palate, you haven't got smaller sinuses, everything has just been compressed within a smaller space. And that's where part of the issue is. BOAS actually has multiple components, one of which being the narrowed nostrils that we often see with this breed. One is the compression of the soft tissue structures inside the sinuses and toward the back of the throat, including the sinus passages themselves, the soft palate, and the tonsillar region at the back of the throat. Because of the shortened snout, these tissues have become compacted and compressed, and when there's more pressure on those tissues, they also become swollen, making the problem that much worse. Add in some extra mucus, and that's where you hear the telltale snorting snuffle of a brachycephalic breed. Now, you can tell a more healthy brachycephalic dog by how they sound when they're at rest. If you've got a quiet dog, a quiet breather, then their airways are much less compromised than those dogs you see with their giant tongue lolling out, panting and snorting and struggling with life in general. The other issue that sort of rounds out this trifecta is a lot of these dogs also have a narrowed trachea or windpipe. For a brachycephalic dog with tracheal hypoplasia, it would be like trying to breathe through a wet cloth with a flimsy tiny straw. Not much fun. And a lot of the time, these breeds get labeled as lazy and preferred by people who want an easier lifestyle. But the fact is, these dogs often don't exercise a lot because they're physically unable to. It's also not uncommon to see these dogs suffering from heart failure and severe, even fatal heat stroke, because their upper respiratory system is also their cooling system. So whilst they're struggling to breathe in hot weather, they're also struggling to cool down. So as vets, we do take a pretty harsh view of breeds like the French Bulldog and other brachycephalics, because a lot of their features mean that their quality of life can be severely affected. Now, in addition to BOAS, French Bulldogs are also overrepresented when it comes to spinal disease, hip problems, and allergies. So overall, these dogs have been bred for their cute features and cute personalities, and their health was not put at the top of the list of priorities. Now, having said that, a lot of responsible and reputable breeders are out there trying to change this. And doing some research and really doing your homework, you may be able to find some breeders that are very deliberately trying to breed this dog back to health by only breeding longer muzzled dogs, by breeding dogs that don't have the spinal issues or have the allergies, breeding dogs that can actually give birth naturally, because these dogs often require a cesarean because of their large heads and narrow pelvis. So there are dogs out there that are being created for more healthy features, but at the end of the day, the health of any brachycephalic dog is somewhat compromised purely by their anatomy. In fact, in several countries in Europe, brachycephalic dogs are actually being banned because their breeding is considered to be against animal welfare. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that we should be getting rid of these breeds, but we certainly should be trying to make sure that the animals coming out are much, much healthier than the ones we've been seeing in the past. One way to reduce the intensity of the health issues that we see in this particular purebred is to have a crossbreed. I'm not suggesting that we go out and just start mating dogs willy-nilly, but one of the ways to dilute the intensity of harmful structures is to introduce genetics of a healthier dog. That's where we see breeds like the Puggle or the Jug. Pugs that have been bred with Jack Russells or Beagles, so that they've maintained a lot of the adorable features of the pug whilst allowing them to have a much better quality of life because they can breathe better. Another thing that I would always encourage any prospective dog owners to consider is taking an interest in some of your local dog rescues, or even having a look online to see what's out there. A lot of dog rescues, a lot of breed rescues, and a lot of animal shelters can actually arrange for animals to be transported across the country for the right home. So if you're wanting to take in a French Bulldog or a French Bulldog cross, looking at an animal shelter is a really wonderful place to start, because you're not contributing to the breeding of a dog that may be unhealthy. Instead, you're actually giving an existing dog a happy and safe home. There's some links below, so you've got some more reading about brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome and the French Bulldog breed itself. If you would like to talk about this in a little bit more detail, head on over to pangovet.com, where you can book an online consultation to speak with a vet, or you can always discuss it with your own local vet. I hope this helps, and good luck.